She was always seen as an ordinary woman by everyone around her. People described her as quiet, calm, soft-spoken. She worked the kind of job that did not make anyone look twice. She signed papers, typed on a keyboard, answered emails, and went home. In the office, she was the kind of person who never really pulled attention toward herself. She was harmless to others, not loud, not anything that stood out. She kept to herself most days. Many did not even remember her name. They just recognized her face as one of the regular people who passed through the lobby every morning. There was no special shine in her clothes, no professional spotlight on her career. People around her would never imagine she had anything rare. Her way of living looked very normal, simple, plain. She used to wonder quietly to herself if maybe life was just meant to be like this. Work, home, sleep, repeat. She did not have dreams that were big or bold. She did not have anyone telling her she should try bigger goals. She just felt like she was average at everything. In her childhood, she liked music a little, and she liked touching the keys of the small plastic keyboard her family once bought from a cheap discount shop. But she never believed that liking music meant she was good at anything. She did not think she was creative. She thought other people had real talent, those who could draw or write or sing in public. Those people were different. They were blessed. She was not. When she was young, she never took real piano lessons. Her parents could not afford expensive classes, and honestly, she never asked for them. She did not want her family to waste money. She used to sit on the floor with the tiny toy keyboard and play random notes. Sometimes she copied small tunes she heard from TV commercials. Sometimes she played little holiday melodies she remembered from school. She did it naturally without thinking, but she never told herself it was skill. She thought anyone could do that. As she grew older, she stopped paying attention to that small spark. She became an adult. Life became busy. Bills, work, stress, schedules, routines. That was what mattered. She forgot music for many years. She believed she was just a person with a regular brain. She never argued with that idea. She accepted it. People around her accepted it. It was safe. It was normal. Her co-workers sometimes talked about big dreams like opening a business, writing a book, traveling across the world. She just listened and nodded. When someone asked her if she had goals or talents, she would shrug and say she was not special at anything. No one disagreed. No one corrected her. They simply accepted it as truth. To them, she was just one of millions of regular people. In her free time, she liked walking alone in parks, just to feel the air and silence. She liked watching rain from windows. She liked listening to soft music on a cheap pair of earphones. These were small pleasures, simple ones. She did not think deeply about her own mind. She did not question why some melodies stuck in her memory without even trying. She did not question why she remembered the exact timing of notes she heard one time in a random environment. She thought everybody remembered music that way. Sometimes, when she was home alone, she would hum little tunes absent-mindedly. Her fingers would move slightly in the air, like tapping invisible keys. She did not even notice she was doing it. It was like her mind had this natural rhythm inside it that did not belong to anything she learned, but she treated it as nothing. She thought maybe humans are just like that. Maybe everyone has some strange habit. Her sense of self was simple and safe. She did not risk anything. She did not chase anything. She blended into the background easily. People spoke around her, not to her. She listened more than she talked. She made sure she did not offend anyone or interrupt anyone. She thought it was better that way. She thought ordinary was the safest way to live. When she walked in public spaces, people barely noticed her. In elevators, she stood quietly in a corner and looked down. On buses, she sat near the window and stared outside. At lunch breaks, she sat alone sometimes because she believed others were too busy to talk. It was not sadness. It was just how life worked in her mind. Even though she thought she was a plain person, deep down she held a gentle softness toward the world. She liked watching strangers smile. She liked hearing the sound of children laughing far away. She liked the clicking sound of raindrops hitting metal roofs. These tiny things were like little messages from life reminding her that the world had small beauty inside it, even in normal days. She sometimes walked through shopping centers on weekends after finishing groceries. She would glance at random objects without planning to buy anything. She liked the feeling of walking through lights, displays, music, and public energy, but she was not the type to stay long in one spot. She moved like someone who thought she did not belong anywhere special. She convinced herself that her role in the world was just to exist quietly. One thing she never knew was that her mind had abilities she never measured. She lived years without anyone telling her she was exceptional, and because of that, she never investigated her abilities. She believed she was average because no one ever told her otherwise, and she was not the kind of person who bragged or tested herself. She did not imagine that she might have a hidden talent sleeping inside her. On one particular weekend, she found herself walking through town after finishing some chores. She did not have a plan. She just wandered a little. She passed clothing stores, bookshops, and people having small conversations on the sidewalk. It was an ordinary day like any other. She wore simple shoes, simple clothes, and carried a small bag with her. She did not expect anything surprising to happen. She did not know that the next few steps she took would quietly lead her toward a part of her life she never imagined touching. She was unaware that she was about to walk into a moment that would change how others saw her, and how she would slowly begin to see herself. Her life was plain. Her world was normal. But fate does not always announce itself before it arrives. The moment had not happened yet. But she was already walking toward it. She had no reason to walk into that music store on that day. She did not even plan it. She did not wake up thinking about instruments or notes or anything artistic. It just happened without intention. She had finished buying groceries, and her steps were slow as she walked down the street. The air was calm. There were soft conversations around her from people window shopping. She carried her small bag close to her side, and she simply allowed her feet to move wherever they wanted without thinking. That was the kind of person she always was. She followed gentle curiosity rather than loud excitement. She never wanted to draw attention. She was not searching for discovery. She simply liked to look at things from a distance. That was enough for her. She passed small restaurants and clothing stores. She heard music from speakers placed outside one hallway of the shopping area. It was soft piano music. She did not know the name of the piece. She only recognized the gentle rhythm. It sounded beautiful in a calm way that touched something deep inside her that she never fully explored. The music store was not loud. It was not crowded. It was just there. A simple place with warm lighting and clean floors. There were guitars hanging on walls, violins in glass cases, and pianos standing against one side of the room. She walked past it at first, but then for some reason her steps slowed down. She turned her head slightly toward the sound of the piano. It was not like other days. Something inside her wanted to get closer to that sound. She stopped walking for a moment. She looked at the music store entrance. The door was open. She could see someone sitting behind the counter flipping through a music book. The person behind the counter did not notice her at first. She stood there quietly for a few seconds. Then she took a gentle breath and stepped inside. The moment she entered, she felt a different type of air. It felt like a world separate from the street outside. There was a soft echo from every sound that happened inside the store. Every tap, every click, every movement of a key or string seemed to float through the space like something alive. She did not speak. She just looked around. She walked slowly between instruments like she was walking through a small museum. She stopped in front of a piano and looked at the keys. They were real piano keys, not plastic like her old toy keyboard from childhood. Something inside her felt familiar. She looked down at the keys and felt a sensation that she could not explain, like her hands already knew what to do even before touching them. One of the instructors working in the store noticed the way she was standing there. He was not suspicious. He was just curious. He walked over and stood nearby. He did not ask her heavy questions. He just spoke in a polite way. He asked if she played. She gave a small, shy smile and shook her head. She told him she did not know how to play properly. She said she never learned. She said she was not a musician. She said she was just looking. The instructor looked at the way her eyes stayed on the keys. He asked if she wanted to try touching the piano for fun. She hesitated. She felt silly. She felt embarrassed. But the piano felt like it was quietly calling her. Her mind knew she should walk away because she did not want to look foolish in front of people who spent years studying music. But her body did not walk away. Instead, she slowly sat down on the piano bench. The instructor stepped back slightly to give her space. She placed her hands gently on the keys. Her fingers rested in positions that looked natural, almost like she practiced for years. She did not notice her own posture. She just felt comfortable. She pressed a single note. The sound filled the air. It was soft and warm. She pressed another note. Her fingers moved with no stress. Then, without thinking, she tapped a tiny melody she remembered from somewhere far back in her childhood. She did not even know where the memory came from. The instructor raised his eyebrows slightly. He had seen beginners before. They always pressed keys awkwardly or hesitated. They looked confused or stiff, but she did not. She moved her fingers like the piano belonged to her hands. He asked if she wanted to try something small, a simple scale pattern. She gave a shy laugh and said she did not know how to do that. He told her gently how the pattern worked. She listened. Then she played it perfectly on the first try. The instructor blinked in slow surprise. He did not know what to say at first, but he kept calm. He told her she did very well. She looked down embarrassed and said she just copied what he said. He asked another small test, something slightly faster, something that needed timing. She listened again. She played again. Perfect again. By now, another instructor from the store had noticed. He walked over to watch quietly from the side. The first instructor tried a slightly more complex pattern, something that usually took students a few weeks to get right. She played it almost instantly. It shocked him more than she realized. His eyes moved back and forth between her fingers and her calm expression. She had no idea she was doing something extraordinary. She thought she was just repeating what he told her to do. Inside her mind, she did not think she was good. She just thought the instructions were simple. She did not know that other people struggled to do what she was doing. The second instructor finally spoke and asked if she had taken lessons before. She looked confused. She shook her head and quietly explained again that she only had a cheap toy keyboard when she was young. She explained she never took real lessons. She explained she never trained. She believed every word she said because it was true. The instructors looked at each other in silent surprise. They could not understand how she was doing this with such natural ease. One of them decided to test her gently once more. He told her to try a rhythm exercise that usually requires strong coordination. She listened, paused for a moment, then performed it like she already knew it. Her hands moved smoothly and her timing was nearly perfect. At that moment, something in the air changed. The instructors were not just curious anymore. They were cautious. They were trying to stay professional and calm, but inside they were stunned. They had never seen someone with no training do that so cleanly. She looked up with a nervous half-smile. She felt like she must be doing something wrong because everyone was suddenly quiet. She apologized softly as if she had accidentally disrespected the place. She thought she was bothering them. She thought she was wasting their time. She had no idea she was doing something rare. She had no idea that she had something inside her that she never even knew existed. She placed her hands back on her lap and stood up slowly, thinking she should leave so she would not disturb anyone. But the instructors stopped her. They asked her kindly if she would stay a little longer. They asked if she would try a few more things just for fun. They said she was not interrupting. They said she was welcome. She did not know why they wanted her to continue, but she agreed. She did not understand why the instructors were becoming more focused on her. She thought maybe they were just being polite because she was a visitor. She believed they were simply trying to make her feel welcome, so she would not feel out of place. She did not know they were beginning to trade looks with each other out of quiet confusion. She did not see that her natural ability was starting to unsettle their thinking. She sat back down on the piano bench because they gently encouraged her to continue. She placed her hands on the keys again, still thinking she was just doing small, playful exercises. The instructors asked if she could try a slightly more complex pattern. She listened carefully and almost immediately repeated it with the same timing that the instructor showed. Another instructor slowly moved closer. He crossed his arms, studying her posture. He watched her fingers carefully. He noticed that her hands curved naturally like trained pianists. He noticed her wrist moved with gentle balance without anyone teaching her. He noticed her eyes did not look confused. She looked calm when watching the notes. She looked like someone who had lived with music for years. But she had not. Inside her, she did not feel special. She was only responding to what felt natural. She was not forcing anything. She felt like she was just repeating what she heard. She never told herself she deserved attention. She never thought she had talent. She just listened and played. One instructor decided to test her further. He challenged her with a short rhythm sequence that is normally too complicated for people who have no history of training. He clapped a pattern softly and asked her to match it. She listened. She paused for only a moment. Then she played it correctly on the keys. Not roughly, not almost, but correctly. The instructor blinked. He had never experienced something like that with a person who claimed no musical background. He looked at her with careful curiosity as if she were holding a secret without knowing it. There was a short silence. She looked down at her hands with a confused expression. She thought she must have done something wrong because no one spoke for a moment. She apologized again, thinking she had made a mistake. She tried to stand up, but they asked her to stay. One instructor said gently that she was doing very well. She said she was not trying to perform well. She was only listening and repeating. She had no pride in it. She had no sense of being good. She did not even feel happiness. She simply felt like she was following directions. Another instructor asked if she could read music sheets. She shook her head slowly. She said she never learned. She said she did not know what the symbols meant. She admitted she never studied how to understand notes on paper. She always believed professional musicians had to train for years to understand symbols and lines. The instructor placed a very simple sheet in front of her. It had basic notes on it. He pointed at them and asked if she understood any of it. She looked at the page like looking at a foreign language. She did not understand anything. She did not know what the black dots meant. She did not know which line represented which sound. Then the instructor asked something unusual. He pointed to a group of notes on the page and asked her to try listening inside her mind. He tapped each note slowly and asked her to follow the pitch. She listened. She imagined the pattern. She played it on the keys. Again, she did it in a way that shocked them. She took a moment, looked at the page again, moved her head slightly, then repeated it. Her timing was not random. It matched what the notes represented, even though she did not know how to read those symbols. She could hear the music just from seeing the shapes. The instructors exchanged glances again. Something deep in their minds began to shift. They realized they were not just watching a lucky moment. They were witnessing something rare, something not taught, something not trained, something other people could not just produce from nothing. More instructors in the store slowly approached the piano area. They pretended they were simply passing by, but every one of them stopped for at least a moment. They wanted to understand how this normal-looking woman could do these tasks without study, without practice, without knowledge. The woman did not notice their facial expressions. She felt a little uncomfortable with the silent attention, but she thought maybe they were just being friendly. She thought maybe they enjoyed helping people learn basic music for fun. She did not know these teachers were thinking she might be someone extremely gifted. Another instructor gently asked if she would try something slightly more advanced. She looked surprised and asked if it would be too difficult for her. The instructor responded that they would guide her, but he wanted to see how she processed new material. He slowly played a short phrase from a classical piece. It was not simple. It was something intermediate level. Normally, it would take students weeks just to play it correctly. She listened carefully. She listened with full attention. Then she placed her hands on the keys and attempted it. She did not get every detail perfect, but she got most of the rhythm correct instantly. Her timing was close. Her fingers followed the shape of the melody. Her coordination was almost balanced. Everyone watching was stunned. She looked down with a shy expression. She thought she must have made many mistakes. She apologized again. She lowered her eyes and said she probably did not do it correctly. One instructor spoke softly and said that what she just did was extremely surprising. She did not know why. She thought the piece sounded simple. She thought she only repeated what she heard. She thought anyone could do that if they listened correctly. Slowly, the instructors began to ask her small questions to understand her thinking. They asked if she practiced music at home. She said no. They asked if her family had musicians. She said no. They asked if she studied music theory. She said no. They asked if she ever saw someone play piano professionally in person. She said no. But she remembered one thing. She remembered that when she was young, she liked listening to soft music played in random places. She remembered that she copied melodies with her small toy keyboard without thinking. One instructor asked how she copied back then if she never learned how to do it. She shrugged gently and said she just listened, and then copied what she heard. The instructors fell silent once again. They slowly realized she was doing something they rarely saw in normal people. She was processing sound like someone who had spent years studying. Her mind was converting sound into action naturally. In that moment, she thought she should maybe leave because she did not want to make them uncomfortable. But they told her she was not interrupting at all. They gently asked her to stay longer so they could explore her ability in a respectful way. She did not understand why they seemed so invested. She did not know that her ability was far from ordinary. She only thought she was having a short, harmless experience in a music store. But to the instructors watching her, this moment felt like the beginning of something extremely unusual. One instructor finally decided to take a step that he normally did not take with strangers. He walked to a shelf and took a music book that was not for beginners. It was a book that contained pieces that usually only strong intermediate students or advanced students tried to attempt. He held it carefully in his hands and walked back toward the piano. The other instructors watched quietly, almost like they knew something interesting was about to happen. The woman noticed that they looked more serious now. She felt a small worry inside her because she did not want to disappoint them. She was not a performer. She was not someone who handled pressure. She was just someone who walked into the store by accident. The instructor gently asked her if she would like to try something a little more challenging. She told him she did not think she could. She felt shy. She believed she was reaching the limit of what she could copy. She did not think she should try something complicated because she had no lesson experience, but he told her softly that there was no pressure. He said she could stop any time. He said it was only for curiosity. His tone was calm. He did not push. He did not force. That made her feel comfortable enough to try. He opened the book to a page containing a short part of a difficult classical piece. She looked at the page without understanding the symbols. She did not know what they meant, but she could see the shapes, the clusters of notes, the way they formed patterns on the staff. She looked at the instructor for guidance because she did not know what she should do. He slowly pressed the first few notes to demonstrate how it should sound. He did not expect her to get anything correct. He simply wanted to see how her mind reacted to higher difficulty. She listened very closely. She absorbed the sound like someone who was already familiar with it. She placed her fingers on the keys and then played the same short line. Her timing was almost perfect. Her posture did not show stress. The instructors stood very still. They exchanged another quiet set of looks. Their eyes said that this was not normal. The instructor played a second line from the same piece. It was more complex. It had faster transitions. It required stronger sensitivity in the fingers. He expected her to hesitate or refuse to try, but she looked at the keys with soft focus and then played it. Her accuracy surprised him. Her hands moved with a natural flow that appeared like instinct rather than effort. The other instructors stepped closer. They were now fully invested in this discovery. None of them wanted to interrupt this moment. They wanted to see where it would lead. Another instructor asked if she would allow him to test something slightly more aggressive. She looked at him with confused eyes and asked if the piece would be too hard. He told her it would not matter if she made mistakes. He told her mistakes are normal. He told her that this was only about exploring. He walked to a different shelf and took a book with pieces that were considered some of the most difficult in piano history. Pieces that most trained players fear at first. Pieces full of complex fingering, deep emotion, and intense technique. He opened a page and placed the book on the stand. She stared at the lines and notes and shapes. She did not know the symbols. But something inside her brain responded differently this time. She felt something like a quiet energy in her fingers, something she did not understand, something that felt familiar but unexplored. The instructor played only a short section from the piece. He did not want to overwhelm her. He just played a few measures. She watched his hands move. She listened to the sound. Then she placed her fingers on the keys and tried to copy it again. And she did. Not perfectly, but shockingly close. She had no clue how she was doing it. She felt like she was only repeating sounds she heard. She did not know that what she was doing would take many trained players months to learn. She played more sections and repeated the instructor's examples with surprising rhythm. Her timing was stable. Her hand movement was smooth. Her finger positioning was not stiff. She did not overthink. She simply followed sound. The instructors looked at each other with a quiet sense of disbelief. One of them shook his head gently as if trying to understand how something like this could happen. Another crossed his arms and leaned against a wall, eyes locked on her hands. She noticed their stillness. She felt slightly nervous. She asked them softly if she should stop because she thought maybe she was doing something wrong. She apologized again. She said she did not want to make them uncomfortable. One instructor quickly reassured her that she was not doing anything wrong. He told her she was doing something incredible. She did not believe him. She thought he was only being polite. The instructor closed the book gently. He did not want to push her too far. He did not want to make her overwhelmed. He wanted to give her space to breathe. She placed her hands on her lap and looked around the room. She felt a slight warmth inside her chest. Something about the sound of the piano felt like it belonged to her. She did not know why. She could not explain it. The instructors gathered in a small cluster on the other side of the piano. They whispered quietly. They were not trying to hide anything from her. They were just trying to understand what they were witnessing. They discussed her natural ability. They questioned how she could interpret advanced sound so easily. They wondered how her mind processed these patterns without the years of training that students normally needed. They were not jealous. They were fascinated. She sat there and watched them talk quietly. She felt a little out of place. She wondered if she should excuse herself and leave the store. She thought maybe she overstayed. She thought maybe she wasted their time. She did not know that the instructors were talking about her like she had something rare inside her. One instructor returned to her side. He spoke gently and asked if she realized how unusual her ability was. She looked confused and said she was not doing anything special. She said she was only repeating. She said she had no idea how to judge what was normal or not. The instructor told her that what she thought was normal was not normal at all. She lowered her eyes and smiled nervously. She told him that she always believed she had nothing special inside her. She said she always believed she was just a person who blended into the background. She said she never expected anyone to look at her with interest. The instructor told her that he had been teaching piano for many years. He told her he had seen hundreds of students. He told her he had seen many levels of talent and skill. But he told her he had rarely seen someone do what she did today without any training. She listened quietly. She did not know what to say. He told her she had something that she did not recognize. He told her that her ability might be something born inside her, not learned, not practiced, something that belonged to her long before she ever touched a real piano. She looked down at her hands again. She stared at her fingers like she was seeing them for the first time in her life. She wondered how she never noticed anything before. She wondered why her life always felt quiet and simple when something inside her was not simple at all. The instructors did not want to push her too hard in that moment. They decided to take a gentle approach. They wanted to encourage her without overwhelming her. They wanted to help her understand her own mind slowly. They told her she did not have to decide anything right away. But inside them, there was already a slow and growing belief that they might be standing in front of a hidden genius no one ever discovered. She sat at the table in her small room with the window open just a little, so a tiny amount of cool night air could move in. She did not even notice the cold. She only noticed the rhythm in her hands. She rested her fingers on the table and tapped out a slow pattern, as if she could feel the keys of a piano even though there was no piano in front of her at all. She tapped again and again, slower, faster, softer, harder, until it made her heart calm down. She was still uneasy from the events earlier in the day. She kept thinking of how the teachers kept watching her when she played. They did not treat her like before. She could feel it, something had changed. She was not used to being the center of anything. Her whole life she had always felt more quiet, always more in the background. She never thought she would be the person everyone stared at. She did not know if she liked it. But she could not stop remembering the feeling she had when her fingers touched the keys. That feeling was not frightening. That feeling felt like home. She did not have many things in her life that felt like home. But the piano, the notes, the music, They made her chest warm in a way she could not explain with simple words. She wondered if the teachers would want her to play again tomorrow. She wondered if they would ask her questions. She wondered if they would tell someone else about her. She feared attention and she feared losing the piano, both at the same time. She did not want anyone to force things on her. But she also knew that she could not stop playing now. It was not something she could just pause or ignore. When music was inside her head, it did not just go away. It stayed there even when she slept. She slowly closed her eyes and imagined she was sitting on a bench again in front of a piano. She imagined the school hall empty and only a single lamp above her. She imagined her fingers on the keys, and she imagined soft notes rising in the air like small drops of light. She imagined how the notes floated and slowly landed around her feet, like tiny pieces of warm dust that did not hurt when they touched the ground. She opened her eyes again and breathed slowly, deeply. She set her chin on her hand and looked at the wall. She did not smile, but she was not sad either. Her face held a soft stillness, like she was listening to something only she could hear. She knew that tomorrow she would have to face more looks. She would have to walk through hallways and feel eyes on her. The world would not be the same as it was before the moment she let her hands move freely on that piano, in front of those teachers. Something had already shifted. The next morning came too soon. She woke before the sun rose because she felt heavy thoughts. She dressed in her simple clothes, brushed her hair in the simplest way, tied her shoes, and stepped outside. The air was cold and quiet. No other sound filled the street. She liked that early time when there was no need to talk. She walked carefully and slow, as if the morning could break easily if she moved too fast. When she reached the school building, she looked at the large doors and waited a moment before stepping in. She took a breath, then another. She pushed the door slowly and walked inside. The halls were still empty, but she could hear faint footsteps in the distance. Her steps felt louder than usual. Her heart beat faster than she wished. She walked toward the music room, the same room where she had played the day before. As soon as she got near the door, she noticed something different. The lights inside were already on. She also heard soft voices inside. She hesitated. She did not want to walk in too fast. She wondered if she should wait or turn back. Then she heard footsteps behind her and she instinctively stepped aside. 2 teachers walked up to the door. They did not see her at first. They opened the door and stepped in. She stood still there in the hallway. She was not sure if she should join them or hide or pretend she was somewhere else. Then one of the teachers turned around and saw her. Their face softened in a gentle way. Not with pity, not with judgment, just a calm understanding. The teacher motioned with their hand for her to enter the room. She walked inside slowly. There was a different piano in the room. It was larger and darker. It looked heavier. It looked older. She did not know where that piano came from. Maybe the school had other instruments locked away somewhere. Maybe they brought this one out especially for her. She was not sure. The teachers seated themselves a few steps back from the piano bench. There was no one else there yet. The room felt quiet but also expectant, like the air itself was waiting. She sat down slowly on the bench. Her hands rested on her legs. One of the teachers spoke softly and said they wanted her to try playing something different today. Something even more complex. Something that would require sharper timing and deeper control. She did not fully understand what was written on the paper they placed beside her, but she could feel the pattern through the few lines she glanced at. She did not need the letters or the symbols. She only needed to feel the shape of the music. She placed her fingers on the keys and she began to play. The sound that came out of the piano was softer at first, like she was testing the strength of the instrument. Then her fingers moved stronger, faster, smoother. She let the rhythm pull her. She let the notes guide her like threads that were woven in the air. She was not thinking about the teachers or the school or the world outside that room. She was thinking only about the music. She was the music. The teachers leaned forward. One of them covered their mouth in surprise. The other stared without blinking. She did not notice. She did not see the expressions on their faces. She did not hear their soft whispers. She did not feel the weight of time. She only felt the movement of sound itself. When she finally lifted her fingers away from the keys, she inhaled and held her breath for a moment. Then she exhaled slow, like she was gently releasing a weight inside her chest. She looked down at her hands as if she did not fully believe they belonged to her. The teachers were silent. The room stayed still. She waited, but she did not ask anything. She did not need praise. She did not need compliments. She only needed a moment to take in the feeling she had just experienced. When she finally looked up, she could see that the teachers were not the same as before. Their eyes held some new light, some new realization. They knew something now that they did not know before. They understood the depth of her ability in a way they had not understood the day before. They did not say much, but she could feel that they wanted more from her. They wanted to push her farther. They wanted to explore the far corners of the music she held inside. She was scared of that and excited at the same time. She walked out of the school building that afternoon with a strange heaviness in her steps. The sky was soft and gray, and the air felt cooler than usual. It almost felt like the world was breathing slower, as if it had been watching what happened inside those walls and now needed time to settle. She did not feel tired in her body, but her mind felt full. Her thoughts were layered on top of each other, like pages placed one on another without a pause. As she walked through the school grounds, she kept her hands close to her chest. She could not shake the feeling that something had changed again. Every time she touched the piano, every time she allowed the music to move through her fingers, something new formed inside her. She did not ask for it. She did not even plan for it. But every new piece she played seemed to push her deeper into a part of her own mind she never had words for. She walked down the small path that led toward the main gate. The trees were silent, and not many students were around anymore. She could hear a distant bus engine and the soft sounds of shoes on pavement, but nothing else felt loud. It was like the world had placed a cushion between her and the noise. She wondered if she could talk to someone about how she felt, but she knew she did not have the right words. She also did not think anyone would understand. Even if they heard the music she played, they would never feel it the same way she felt it from the inside. She did not know how to explain that the music did not come from her memory or from reading notes, but from somewhere deeper, like the music lived inside her before she was even aware of it. When she reached the gate, she paused and looked back at the building. She knew the teachers were still inside. She could almost feel their thoughts drifting toward her even though she could not hear them. She wondered if they felt confused or excited or scared. Maybe they felt all three. She could not blame them. She herself felt all three too. She walked home slowly. The sky shifted from gray to a quiet soft blue. A few birds flew overhead, but they did not make much sound. When she reached her small home, she pushed the door gently and stepped inside. She sat quietly in a corner of the room for a long moment. She placed her hands on her knees and stared at the floor. She tried to slow her breathing. After a while, she stood up and moved toward the small table near the window. She placed her fingertips on the wooden surface and slowly tapped them again. The rhythm she tapped was different now. It was sharper, more firm, like the music she played earlier had changed the way her hands wanted to move. Time passed. The room got darker. The sky outside slowly moved toward night. She did not turn on a light. She just sat there listening to the silence. She stared at her hands again. She could not decide if she felt frightened or simply awakened. Later that night, she lied down on her small bed. She closed her eyes, but sleep did not come quickly. She kept seeing the room at school in her mind. She kept seeing the teachers leaning forward, almost holding their breath. She kept hearing the notes she played echoing inside her chest. She whispered a few words under her breath, not to anyone, not even to herself, but to the music that lived inside her. She whispered, "Thank you." She whispered that she understood the power of what she had been given, and then she whispered that she wanted to protect it. She wanted to hold it close. She did not need attention. She did not need applause. She only needed the music to remain hers. When she finally fell asleep, her hands relaxed slowly at her sides, but even in rest, one finger twitched.